Before you unmute.
All right, you can unmute us, my friend.
You're unmuted.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. I hope you're all well. Let's commence this meeting of the Naugatuck Valley Council of Governments on Friday morning, April 8th, 2022. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Mayor Thomas Dunn.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great. Roll call, please. Thank you. From the town of Ansonia, we are expecting Mayor Cassetti, but I don't believe he's with us. He didn't know. Okay, from the town. Are you saying no? Right on, Mayor Cassetti. From the town of Beacon Falls, First Selectman Smith.
Yep, here.
Oh, thank you. From the town of Bethlehem, First Selectman Sorty.
Here.
That's on the line. From the city of Bristol, Mayor Caggiano. Here. From the city of Derby, Mayor Zekin. Here. From the town of Middlebury, First Selectman St. John. Here. From the borough of Naugatuck, Mayor Hess.
Here.
Thank you. From the town of Oxford, I show Kristen Rosa as present. Is First Selectman Temple with us? Kristen?
Retirement account you have is required and the keys to the.
There you go. Thank you, Richard. All right, we're gonna leave Oxford as not present at the moment. I don't have anyone. In the room, from the town of Plymouth, we have Mayor Kilduff. Here. From the town of Prospect, Mayor Chatfield. Is online. Thank you, Mayor. From the town of Seymour, First Selectwoman Dragonis. She lives now. Mayor Loretti from Shelton is not here yet. From Southbury, First Selectman Manville. From the town of Thomaston, First Selectman Moan let us know that he'll be here late. From the city of Waterbury, Mayor O'Leary.
I'm here.
From the town of Watertown is Mark Ramos not with us? Okay. From the town of Wolcott, Mayor Dunn.
Here.
From the town of Woodbury, First Selectwoman Perkinson.
We have alternate William Agresta.
Okay, William Agresta is on the line.
Yep.
Welcome, Mr. Agresta.
Thank you.
And just so we know, guests that are with us today, Eddie Ayers from Eversource is with us. Joe Violette from the Greater Waterbury Chamber is with us. I know I've missed some of these people coming in, but Tommy Hyde from Naugatuck Valley Regional Development Corp is with us. Jameson Folk from Senator Murphy's office is with us. If anyone else, any other guests? Oh, I'm sorry, Grayson Bright is filling in for Sarah Radacey from Condot today. Grayson's here from Bureau of Policy and Planning.
Okay.
You have a quorum present for both bodies, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you.
I am here.
That's Mr. Cassetti.
Yep, we got you, Mayor.
All right.
Anyone here from the public that wishes to address us? Anyone from the public here that wishes to address the NVCOG?
We received no advance request for access.
Beautiful. Item agenda 2, CNVMPO meeting. Kevin, you want to take it?
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone. We have 8 TIP amendments today, so I'll try to get through them as quick as possible. The first one is the zero emission bus program. This will be the purchase of 12 battery electric buses, including parts and depot chargers. 3 of these will be heading towards CT Transit Hartford, 3 for CT Transit Stanford, and 6 for Greater Bridgeport Transit. The total will be 14.3 million. 11.4 million of that will be federal. 2.9 of it is state, and we no local funds. The second one will be a statewide bus replacement. This will be bus purchases for CT Transit Divisions Hartford, New Haven, Stamford, and Waterbury. This also includes transit operators like GBT. These will be battery electric buses. They will be replacing buses that have reached the end of their useful service lives of 12 years. These includes parts and depot chargers for these new battery electric buses. The total cost will be 30 million. Federal will be 24 million. State will be 6 million, and then we know local funding. Third one will be a capital miscellaneous and facility improvements for CT Transit. The purchase of capital and support equipment for divisions Hartford, New Haven, Stamford, and Waterbury. And this will also include facility improvements. The total cost will be 1.5 million, a federal cost of 1.2, state of 308,000, and no local funds. The fourth one is the statewide transportation demand management, or TDM, for the New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut area. This will be for Southwest Connecticut, Danbury, Bridgeport, Greater New Haven, and Waterbury. This will be underneath the brand of Connecticut Rides, which will assist in the formation and long-term viability of van pools and carpools, and this will include resources for teleworking. The goal of this is to reduce work trips, thus reducing congestions, energy consumption, and air pollution. The total cost will be 2.5 million. 2 million of that would be federal. The state will be 493,000 and no local funds. The fifth one will be the TDM for the Greater Connecticut moderate area. This will be for the Greater Hartford and New London areas. Like I just mentioned previously, this will be underneath the brand of Connecticut Rides, assist in the formation of van pooling, carpooling, and telecommuting. Again, the goal to reduce congestion, energy consumption, and air pollution by reducing work trips. The total cost will be 1.6 million, a federal cost of 1.3, state of 315,000, and no local funding. The sixth one will be Connecticut Fast Track improvements. This is a carryover from section 5337 funding. This will include improvements to CT Fast Track's H2 building up in Hartford to help roll out electric buses. This will help the deployment of autonomous vehicles between New Britain and Hartford as well. And there's a potential for these routes under the CT Fast Track brand to go to Bristol and Waterbury in the future. The total cost will be 2.5 million. 2 million of it will be federal. A state cost of 498,000 and no local funding. The next one, number 7, will be the New Haven Line Track Program. This will be the purchase and installation of ties, turnouts, and continuously welded rail and resurfacing track. This will be improving operations and comfort along the New Haven line and the Waterbury branch. The total cost will be $25 million. 20 million of it will be federal, 5 million will be state, and no local funding. And the last item is the bridge replacement program. This is the removal of this program. DOT will not be applying for this program. Instead, the funding will be applied to the New Haven Line Track Program that I just mentioned. So the total deductions will be a 25 million total, 20 million for federal, 5 million for state, and no local funding. And with that, that is all of the TIP amendments. I would recommend that we approve all of them.
So moved.
I'll second that motion.
Discussion.
Just one quick question, because you mentioned the project 0171. You mentioned that the connection to Bristol eventually. Is there a timetable on that?
There's not a timetable. I reached out to them. They just said potential for it in the future. That's mostly got.
That's good. We got a 2-year project. We're working on. Good.
I was gonna give you a timetable, but. Thank you.
A little push, but I better start now.
It's only Chatfield and I can go back on the real history here.
Yeah.
All the promises. that were
Hopefully
made.
We'll catch up on that later. fellas.
Yes.
I don't wanna hold us up.
Hopefully it'll be quicker than the next master project.
Oh, another one.
All right, we have any further discussion? Hold on.
If before there's a vote, I just want to note for the record that we've been joined by First Selectman Temple from Oxford, First Selectwoman Dragonis from Seymour. We're also joined by, I had missed earlier, Selectman Kraneski from Beacon Falls.
Great. Okay, any further discussion on the motion on the floor? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain. Hey, Kevin, you did a good job. Kevin, when did you come on board with us?
End of August, beginning of September.
It's been that long already.
Yeah.
One timer here.
Well, let me tell you, you did a good job going through that agenda. You're a keeper. All right, item agenda 2B is in boy, Rich Donovan.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everybody. Per federal regulation, planning organizations are required, planning organizations with locations in air quality non-attainment areas are required to model and confirm their conformity to future limits. This modeling is done based on projects that are approved and in the TIP, as well as projects that are proposed and funded through the MTP. Here in the CNVMPO, we have municipalities in all 3 of Connecticut's non-attainment areas, which includes the Greater Connecticut Ozone non-attainment area, the Connecticut portion of the New York, New Jersey, Connecticut's Ozone non-attainment area, and the Connecticut PM 2.5 non-attainment area. In February of 2022, the Connecticut Department of Transportation released their most recent analysis here in Connecticut based on the overlap between MPOs as well as the interconnectedness of our projects and our travel. CONDOT handles the modeling and analysis as well as the determination of conformity. In their most recent report, they show that emissions from component emissions for all three non-attainment areas drop pretty drastically over the next 23 years until the 2045 horizon on their analysis, to all well within the federal limits for those emissions. And if you don't mind moving on to the next slide. So a single motion can adopt the resolution, or can adopt all 3 resolutions for confirming that the CONDOT analysis conforms to air quality requirements for all 3 non-attainment zones.
Right, so Mr. Mayor, unlike what it says on the screen, the motion would be to adopt resolutions 22-11, 12, and 13.
So
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion passes. Thank you, Rich. Okay, item agenda number 3, NVCOG administrative items, approval of the minutes for the March 11th, 2022 NVCOG CNVMPO meeting. Do we have a motion?
so moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion passes. Approval B, 3B. Approval of the agency financial reports and summaries for the period ending 2/28/22. Michael?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is the financial report for period ending February 28th, 2022. It is the one that went out in the agenda packet last week. We are 66% through the year with a bottom line of $167,000 to the surplus. We are still projected to hit between $20,000 and $30,000 surplus at the end of the year. We are on track to spend against our major funding sources such as PL and RSG. We did have some good news of unanticipated revenue in the Regional Incentives Program, or RPIP. Essentially, we're closing out 2 grants, the wastewater study and the school consolidation study, in which case we had about $80,000 in admin expenses. However, OPM required some additional referendum governance studies, so we set aside about half of it to cover it. We didn't need that half, so we're able to get some cost reimbursement for staff time, which at the end of February is about $32,000 worth. Other than that, there's no other anticipated or unexpected expenses. Kidney Town Dam is still performing high. I believe we spent about $48,000 through the month of February for this fiscal year. That project. Other than that, I'm happy to take any questions.
How much was Kenny Town?
48,000 this current fiscal year.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Michael? None? Matt, we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion on the floor to accept the Financial report. Second, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained, motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay, NVCOG Director's Report. Rick?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone. I'm just gonna cover a couple of things, and I'm gonna ask Rich Donovan to support me on one of the items. So legislative discussion, I'm really not gonna get into a lot. You know, there are a lot of bills dying, there are a lot of things, a few things moving along. We're roughly in alignment with CCM and cost positions that you're already probably have been updated on and familiar with. One bill that Rich flagged for us, which CCM supported with changes, we have some concern about it. It's not a definite thing, but we wanted to bring it to your attention because there could be some unintended impacts on municipalities from this. It's Senate Bill 4. We don't know whose bill it is necessarily or where it came from, but it's pretty well written and cross-referenced to state and federal statute. Rich, you want to just briefly explain the potential concern and impact?
Yeah, so like you said, CCM actually raised this concern with the original text of the bill, and the Transportation Committee did make some amendments. We're still a little concerned that the way that Section 18 is written, which requires that project sponsors do an analysis and then potentially an offset project for future emissions from transportation projects. We're concerned that the language may require that the municipalities or that the COGs are responsible for that air quality analysis, which is certainly something that could potentially be costly, and then as well must provide the funding for the potential offset projects.
So the more plain language of that is that there are projects defined as regionally significant projects, and that the potential exists that a local road system could be a regionally significant project under the law. And therefore, the requirements to do this air quality monitoring and other work would fall to the town. In the case of, even if it was a LOTSIP project, you'd get stuck with it because you're responsible for all the engineering and design costs. And the state program only pays construction. So we're a little concerned. Now, granted, it's not extraordinarily likely, Mark. I mean, you would think there's only a few potential.
Correct. The way the bill is written, regionally significant project is defined equivalent to Code of Federal Regulation, Section 93 and CFR 40. In regionally significant means a principal arterial, which is your main roads, a US Route 1, I'm trying to think of Route 34 in Derby, for instance, things like that. You know, major roads that carry a lot, Route 6 and through Bristol and Plymouth. Those are principal arterials. It wouldn't include most of the local roads that we look at, you know, under lots. Also includes, or it exempts certain types of projects just by statute. We're looking to find out that list of types of exemption, but you know, minor resurfacing, intersection type of improvements, traffic signals, things like that are going to be, you know, just categorically exempt.
Actually, Mark, if I can interrupt just real quickly, the edited text of the Transportation Committee's bill does require that the commissioner define transportation project as related to this section. And it does specifically call out that safety improvements and standard maintenance are to be exempted.
And again, that's under federal code. Those are typically exempt from the air quality. But again, the issue becomes two issues. You know, the need to do that air quality analysis, which, you know, is not going to be a minor expense, and then the offset of that. And that's where it really gets kind of tricky. You know, identifying a project that could offset any increases in CO2 emissions. So again, there's some good merits to the bill. It's just that, you know, there's a couple of sections that we're a little concerned about that we're going to keep track of.
I think our concern is we don't know what will constitute an offset of CO2. You know, if the calculation says a roadway is going to create more CO2, what's the offset that you're required to put in place?
That's not your concern at all. Okay,
Your concern is what's gonna be in the implementer bill at 12 o'clock at night that you're not gonna know.
no, my concern is what's gonna be in it that we do know about. No, it's, this bill, we're raising it just for your attention. We are a little concerned about it. We'll reach back out to, I know John is reaching out to Randy at CCM about
Well, who is signed on to this bill? Who's sponsoring it?
John?
A tremendous amount of Democratic legislators. There's not a lot of Republican support on it. And in the Transportation Committee, it was a partisan vote.
Is it the Black and Puerto Rican caucus, do you know?
I'd have to look, they certainly could be part of the overall Democrat caucus that was supporting it and signed on as co-sponsors.
Would you let me know?
Absolutely.
I mean, there's a big, obviously, this environmental justice is taking a life of its own in the election year. And I think, it would behoove all of us to be careful here because they're almost gonna make it impossible to do business in Connecticut the rate they're going, so. Just saying. Every year, this is like their, hot button topic now. It's very interesting.
It becomes increasingly more difficult to make that point to people who just don't understand, people who don't live in the world that we live in, where you have to actually deliver a service. A lot of this stuff looks good on paper and it sounds good and feels good, but it doesn't work, as we all know.
I don't want to give short shrift to the entire bill. There are some really good parts of this bill that which is the reason I think CCM was supporting it originally. Rich, do we know if they took the word municipal out of the JFS or is it still in there?
No, it is still there.
Okay. So, the problem is that right now, all of the air quality monitoring and any of the front end engineering work is done by the state on an aggregate statewide basis. This would require it to be done individually by project, and then we're worried about what this offset is because it's unknown.
What are the good parts of the bill?
Rich, you want to go through them?
Yeah, so it does create quite a few grant or voucher programs for the purchase of municipal vehicles, as well as the upgrade or installation of municipal charging structure as you switch to electric. It includes programs to assist school districts with the switch to electric school buses, and again, quite a bit of money in that field. And it does create some additional an additional grant program for the funding of some of the offset type projects.
Okay, so when is the sunset date for these grants?
There's nothing specific in the bill, but it does only directly outline them till 2027.
No surprise there.
So anyway, no action. I mean, we just wanted to make sure you guys were aware of it. It was a concern that we only flagged in the last week, so.
Okay. Yes, okay. All right, keep going.
So next item is just a budget update. This is just an update on the schedule. We haven't made any substantive changes to the draft that we've shown you previously. We've continued on with the work the executive committee directed with regard to the salary analysis, and we're putting together a wage plan for presentation to the executive board as requested. So we anticipate, Lauren, I don't know, did you reach out to the rest of the executive board? We have flagged May 4th.
I'm still waiting on some responses. I'm
Okay.
going to follow up.
All right, so, but tentatively, May 4th will be the executive board meeting that will go through the salary and hopefully the final parts of the budget. We may know, we won't know until the next day, really, what's in the state budget. They'll close the session at midnight on the 4th. But we'll move forward with that information, and we anticipate, since there's a full 2 weeks in May before the board meeting from the beginning of the month, that we should be able to present a budget for adoption, or at least for consideration at the May meeting, regular May meeting. So that's the plan. And I just wanted to let you know and answer any questions if anyone had any on budget. Okay. Last thing, you're all probably getting emails from your congressional delegation or from US senators regarding congressionally directed expenditures, congressionally directed appropriations, otherwise known as earmarks in the past. There is a process for these. We went through two of our staff members went through some training yesterday with Senator Murphy's DC staff on this. We're in touch with Representative Himes, Representative DeLauro, Representative Hayes on this as well. What we want to just bring to your attention is if you are asking for a project that is a transportation project, which means it'll be funded through the THUD appropriations bill, you need to bring it to us because it has to be on the tip in order to be eligible under the rules, under Congress's current rules for this. So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
You know what would be helpful if you could send us a list of all of these? I mean, there's so many grants now, so many different categories. It's really tough to keep track of all.
Yeah, we're collecting the best resource we can find right now, but I think purposely the process is designed by the Congress to be quick. You don't need a deep description for your project ask. You just need to have the elements of it. Right now, I think, I can't remember whose office, if it was Murphy or Himes, the turnaround is April 18. They want in. So you know, those need to go in relatively quickly. They don't need a lot of detail. We're collecting a list of these, and we have the transportation ones, the non-transportation ones we're still assembling and trying to get them all to you. But you should be getting them directly from your members of Congress as well, because they're the ones who have to submit to the Appropriations Committee individually. If you do have a project with regional impact, it is a good thing. I would recommend to you to work with your fellow chief elected officials, submit in multiple places, because if you have two members of Congress and a senator, or two senators and two members of Congress, we're all in favor of something, you know, then there's a greater likelihood that a good project gets funded. But we wanted to make sure you knew transportation projects, because we didn't know this last time. Transportation projects have to be in the tip. Jameson Polk from Senator Murphy's office just placed something in the chat. He's talking about can you bring that up, Rich, on screen? So they have a guide that they'll share with us if we already don't have it. So Jameson, you can just get that into us, or we'll have the towns contact you directly as well regarding the guide. Thank you. I have no other items to take up your time today unless the board has questions for me.
Rick, when does the Derby Shelton Bridge rehab program start up again?
They should be remobilizing right now. I know Route 34 mobilized this past week. And I don't know, have you, Kevin, have you talked to, who's talked to BL about, is it BL?
Yes.
They're the manager on the bridge project.
Karen, Kevin met with the district office out there just to address your issue about the pavement condition. And so we made them aware of some of your concerns about it wasn't passable during the winter. And they did do some patching, just not as good as you would have liked. So we did.
They did nothing.
Yeah, we expressed your concern. Our understanding is the utilities are ramping back up.
Well, they've been out there, the utilities. They've been
Yes.
out there right along.
Right, so the utilities have to complete their work before they can really start doing the bridge itself.
Now, when does 34 actually get active?
Well, it
is.
started April.
Yeah, they mobilized.
They mobilized.
They're rolling.
I'm seeing bits and pieces, but I'm not seeing, anything major at this point.
Well, they're setting up the silt fences and they're.
Yeah,
mobilizing
I
all
saw that.
Yeah.
I saw that.
And then Eversource is there. They're doing a lot of poles here and there for disconnects or connects, but they are.
Right.
That's going to be at least 2 construction seasons, maybe 2.5.
34 is?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
There's a first part on the south side with the sewer line.
Just a quick comment on the timeline for the bridge. When we were out there with Conta, they mentioned that they are hoping to have the phase one work done somewhere in middle of summer, and move on to phase two, which will then tear up some of the worst parts of the pavement.
And this is,
Right down to Derby Shell Bridge, right to,
this is Karen. I just wanted to add that UI evidently is ahead of schedule, so that's a good thing. And I believe that the project engineer from the state said that Mohawk will be starting up again within a few weeks, right, Rich? I believe that's what he said.
Yeah, when we met with them, they said they were hoping within 2 or 3 weeks that Mohawk would be back out doing their work.
Right, doing the parapet walls, pulling up the rest of that deck and rebuilding that. So you should see some activity by the actual prime contractor relatively soon.
Okay, other discussion? All right, moving on, item agenda 4, municipal shared services.
Excuse me, Mayor, I had one quick question. Is Elizabeth Street a state project?
It's part of the lower block is part of the state project, just in Thompson Place.
What about all the gas replacement that took place?
that was Eversource.
They took, but Eversource took a lot of their gas lines out of Route 34 and routed them up and over and down. So they're out of the, much of their infrastructure is now out of the way.
But they're gonna have a major resurfacing program.
Oh, no, they are. That's coming up soon. Very soon, yeah.
And when that happens, I know we talked about some nice crosswalks, in and around the church and, where a lot of people up at the library and stuff.
Derby, when Derby will submit a project.
Yeah.
Lots of,
All right.
yeah, but the Route 34 project is only going up the 3 streets to Thompson Place, to 3rd Street.
Just before the courthouse?
No, right at the United Cigar Store.
Oh, okay. All right.
Mr.
All right.
Chair, this is Hetty. If you can hear me, I just wanted to comment from Eversource. So if there are any specific Eversource related questions on that project, please email me and I'm happy to follow up accordingly internally.
Thank you, Hetty. Much appreciated. Okay, ready? Okay, item agenda 4, municipal shared services, John DeCarlo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone. We're pleased to report on the Sustainable Materials Management Grant Program that DEP rolled out last summer. 5 towns in our region, as well as NVCOG itself, submitted grant applications to the program. The fund requests total over $1 million. 20% basically of the entire state allocation is what we put in for. Our ongoing interaction with DEP's consultant and its staff assures us the state recognizes this region's leadership in pursuing opportunities that can lead to lower costs and a more sustainable approach to municipal solid waste. So congratulations to Ansonia, Bethlehem, Shelton, Wolcott, and Woodbury. We're confident that your hard work in getting these grants over the finish line will pay dividends for your residents. Christine O'Neill and myself appreciate the CEOs and municipal staff for working with us on these applications. Christine did a tremendous amount of work on this project. At the close of business on the due date of the grant application, DEP announced that it would extend the application deadline to early May, just after the legislative session ends. This is related to a bill before the legislature that would provide additional funds for the program beginning in the next fiscal year. The department wants to have a clearer picture of what's going to be available. And this is also good news for any municipality still interested in waste reduction programs. We have a couple more weeks to submit applications. If you're interested, please contact Christine or myself so we can start designing an application for you. In closing, I'll mention an opportunity I've noted in recent NVCOG meetings. We'd like to pursue state funding either through the SMM program or through the Regional Performance Incentive Program to create a regional composting facility. If your town's transfer station currently uses windrows to compost yard waste, there's a potential to locate a composting operation that could lower your disposal costs as well as those of other towns in the region while using state funds to start the program. Please contact myself or Christine in the next week if you'd like to learn more. And Also, for the 15 towns that participate in the NVCOG Household Hazardous Waste Program, we will host the first of 3 collection events next Saturday in the fine city of Ansonia. I'm happy to take any questions.
Hey, John, can you just comment for the board's benefit on the glass application that we submitted to DEP? And only because that to me is like low hanging fruit and really impacts everyone, because when we started down this path of recycling, we were getting reimbursed for glass, which we are no longer. So.
Absolutely, Mayor. So Shelton's Public Works Director had concerns early on. He was very interested in doing glass recycling because mainly there's been a lot of problems with glass breaking in equipment and causing issues for Shelton in doing it. So they're going to separate on a trial basis with a small run in the city, separating glass as it's bagged and put into containers that will be put together at the transfer station and then taken from there. DEP was really interested in this program because it's going to, under our proposal, it's going to be trucked up to a facility in Beacon Falls that uses recycled glass for their product. So this is the kind of thing that similar to, I'll mention similar to Woolcut doing a program in their schools, that this is really something they consider innovative. And when Shelton put in for, separating glass as something that could be recycled in a different way than it's currently being recycled, we're very interested in the program.
Recycled glass is the key. Getting DEP to allow recycling of glass. It's a problem for all of us. I don't care where you are in the state.
Well, they have to let them do it. Where we bring our recycling, they bring the glass to Beacon Falls.
Yeah.
And it's being recycled and put into the cement. So DEP must allow that already.
But there are other forms of recycling and everything is because of the trucking costs associated with MSW. That's the biggest cost.
Well, that's what we put in for the grant to pay for it. The state's gonna force us to do things, pay for the transportation, because that is the highest cost. So I think that's what we're doing, right?
It is, and it's a trial basis to see basically what you can do to lower your costs, but they're paying for the transportation of the stuff.
Because the towns that have done it already and done the pilot programs, it's not worth it for them. They're better off just throwing it in the trash. It costs too much to get a separate transportation.
And that's what people do.
Well, that's why there's grant money, and then hopefully the state will continue.
So Tom, is all of Covanta doing that for all the municipalities in Covanta or just?
No, this is through this grant. Covanta, we're working on another project with Bristol and New Britain to do a compost food waste place. So we got 2 different things going on.
But maybe we should join that one too.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll reach out to you, Joe.
Yeah, I would suggest that it's a lot easier to do glass. That's why I said it's low hanging fruit as opposed to composting waste.
It's a heavy material too, so the transportation cost is definitely consideration.
Interesting. Thank you. Okay. You ready, Joanna and John? Item agenda 5, emergency management update.
Oh, we're so ready. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to yield the floor to John Field. Hopefully I know he's on the call.
I'm here, Joanna.
Great, thanks.
All right, thanks. Just real quick, good morning, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity once again every month. It's great. So from a COVID perspective, we continue to monitor what goes on with COVID, new variants, all that kind of stuff. And it's really slowed down quite a bit. And the news was kind of quiet on it until yesterday when the governor actually acquired COVID. So now it's back at the forefront again, and we'll continue to monitor that. There's a lot going on with long-term recovery. I'll let Joanna talk about that. We finally did turn the warehouse over to DPH. So they are running all the warehouse. Everything was transferred to their warehouse, all the PPE and everything. And we're not really taking any orders right now unless you're desperately in need of PPE, which I doubt very much because we handed out so much before. So, but we can make it happen if we have to, if you run into a desperate need for it. From normal operations, Demis continues to try to replace vacancies. We have a pretty good number of vacancies, especially our training exercise folks. There's only one person left in that unit, so we're working on getting those replaced. We do have a new state emergency management director. This was Bill Hackett's old job. Bill Turner is the gentleman's name. Comes out of Pennsylvania. We're actually, you probably saw it yesterday, having sort of introductory brief on May 10th, 2 different locations, one in Watertown and one up at the Litchfield County Regional Fire School. So we'll continue to try to let you know how we make out with positions. There is a game plan to replace as much as they can, so Region 2 lost their regional coordinator, also Jake. He moved on to Department of Developmental Services. So they're in the process of trying to replace that too. So, and I know some of the towns in this particular COG are affected by that. So we are having, so back in, I forget, the fall or towards the end of the year, we had the incident where Sergeant Mo from the Connecticut State Police lost his life over in Woodbury. It triggered some stuff to happen from ESF 9, which is the search and rescue group. We had a lot of different assets over there. Nobody was familiar with who could do what and all that kind of stuff. So we're having what we're calling a search and rescue crosswalk on May 4th down at Camp Net in Niantic. A lot of the folks that, especially aviation resources, will be there on hand. Coast Guard, National Guard, Trooper 2, I think is going to be there, Eagle 1. So a lot of different resources there for people to look at. And then there's also some time for them to exploit their capabilities and talk about what they can do and what they can't do. So that's happening May 4th. On the 27th of April, we have our CCM DPH Demis Symposium. This is the annual event that happened prior to COVID. We had it every year, Emergency Management Symposium. That's 427. It's actually being held at the area in Prospect this year. So that'll be on the 27th. Then on the 24th of May, we will be having the annual EPI. I know everybody, it's a pretty simple lift, I'll call it. We're actually working with the National Weather Service to do a hurricane exercise. So just making sure we get everybody back into the mode of being prepared for a hurricane and stuff like that. So that's going to happen on the 24th. We did hold our CEO EMD training. I know some of you guys were able to attend that. We had approximately, I think, 70 people, if I remember correctly, and it went very well. The basis of that training was on cybersecurity. So we had some great presentations from KERMA, from the National Guard cybersecurity units, and then our own Region 5 cybersecurity working group. So it went very, very well. And then coming up, we're actually scheduling a meeting with, or we have a meeting scheduled to meet with the folks from Massachusetts, emergency management, just to keep in contact with those folks that border out of state so that we can all be on the same page. We do the same thing for New York, especially here in Region 5. We cover, we try to stay in touch with each of the 2 states that border our region. So I think that's all I have, pending any questions, Mayor.
Any questions?
Joanna?
Okay, thanks. Yeah, thanks, John Field. That's awesome. And I have to say, John did a really great presentation at the CEO EMD training. He may not be the expert, but he's the expert at getting the information you need. It's really great. It was really great presentation. Okay, so regarding long-term recovery from COVID-19, we had our last meeting this past Wednesday, April 6th. From the Health and Human Services Subcommittee, we had Jess Christie from Naugatuck Valley Health District, David Morgan from Team Inc., and Susan Agami from Spooner House. One of the things regarding COVID and the ongoing COVID surveillance, because there's this increase in the use of home test kits, right now there's a lot more wastewater testing to anticipate COVID surges, which I thought was an interesting thing. And just to go on this test kit theme, Team Inc. has been adding home test kits in their Easter basket distribution, which I thought that was a pretty interesting idea. Housing issues, again, with the eviction moratoriums and evictions going through the court system, that's becoming still a hot button issue. Also, with the hotel funding ending for the people who needed sheltering in the winter time, that's ending. That's also adding to the housing crisis. Childcare issues continue, and that is affecting workforce participation. What was new, elder care issues. The elderly were very much isolated during the pandemic, and just a lot of efforts to get them back into community and get them involved. Also greater focus on mental health issues, and there's a lot of community wellness health indexes and surveys going on right now, and mental health issues are the focus of that. Jobs and business. Lynn Ward from the Greater Waterbury Chamber was there during our meeting. She mentioned the number one problem is difficulty filling job positions. She said that there have been better attendance at recent job fairs, but it's still much lower than it was pre-pandemic. And FEMA Region 1, they gave us updates on the projects that were submitted through their portal in October of 2021. The final total of Connecticut projects is 376. FEMA representatives are still in the process of meeting project leads. And just to give you a reminder that the whole product of this effort is to create project resource guides for funding for those projects. That's what FEMA Region 1 is going to have as their final product. The next regional steering committee meeting is May 11th. John Field did a really good roundup of the CEO and EMD training. And just regarding the community emergency response teams from the last statewide meeting, what they're contemplating is a change in the CERT activation process. Instead of submitting a roster for CERT personnel along with the activation request, there may be only a list of CERT members who actually responded, and that may be submitted after the event. Another interesting development, Manchester CERT will be serving as the net control operators for a new CERT amateur radio net. And this is a linked radio system that will enable CERT teams with this communications capability from across the state to communicate with each other, regardless of internet or telephone communications being disabled. And these nets will be held on Tuesday nights. And that's all I've got right now. Thank you for your time.
Okay. Questions? Any comments? Okay. NVCOG Planning and Transportation, Mark?
I just want to do thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just want to do a quick LATSIP update again. What we're showing here is just something we want to just bring again to your attention. The blue line is representing how much LATSIP money has been allocated to the region since inception of the program. And the orange is our estimate for the federal aid that would have been provided on a fair share basis to the region. As we've talked about, when LATSIP was created, it was intended to sort of be a quote unquote swap between the federal aid dollars and state dollars. So this way the state could allocate the federal aid dollars for their assets while still allowing the regions to implement local projects. The intent was that it was going to be a one-to-one pretty much swap. As you can see from this bar chart, the allocation of LATSIP hasn't kept pace with what the federal aid would have been. So it's a concern in our region because as we can go to the next slide.
Hang on, Mark, before you move on, if we can go back. I asked Mark and Rich to put this analysis together. We have a meeting scheduled, the COG directors around the state have a meeting scheduled with CONDOT for the first week of June. This is an item on the agenda for us. They have not proposed to the legislature to fund the equal level. And this is what's been going on over time. The federal amount that they're taking, I don't want to say they're taking from us, the fair share amount that would have come to our urbanized areas in this region. and all regions, has been increasing from the federal government. But they've given us basically the same amount that they were giving us previously under STPG. So this is a subject for discussion. We want the department to up their ask to the legislature each year. But one of the other things you all need to be aware of as this issue gets discussed, your colleagues around the state may not be in the same position. And that's what Mark's going to show you now on the next slide.
Yeah, basically, I don't know if you can move, that you're missing the important part. But basically, this red line is showing our expenditure of lots of funds over time. The blue line is our allocation from the state. And in early years, there was a pretty good sizable gap between what we were spending and what we were getting. Starting mid 2023 next year, we are going to be in a situation where we have actually committed more money to projects than we have gotten from the state. So we'll be running a little bit of a deficit situation. We don't think it's going to be a big issue because it will sort of rectify itself in a couple of months when the next round of lots of funding becomes available.
Let's be clear. We won't actually be upside down. That's a very conservative estimate of 100% of our projects in the pipeline going forward on schedule. So we're not worried about a couple of months of it being upside down.
But the point here is that we've been very aggressive over time in getting projects initiated, designed, and actually built. And we continue to do that, and we have a number of projects that are being submitted by our towns, and we want to continue to be aggressive in getting these projects funded and completed. The problem is, as Rick alluded to, is not all regions throughout the state have been as aggressive. And this creates an issue because the legislature will look at it from a statewide perspective and say, well, you haven't spent all the lots of money that we've already given you. Why do you want more? And we're saying on a statewide basis, that's correct. But from our regional basis, we are doing a good job trying to get projects completed. And we sort of feel we could use the additional money because we can get the projects completed.
It's us, Capital Region, Greater Bridgeport, are fully programmed, essentially fully programmed. So we're the regions who aren't getting the extra money. And part of the discussion with CONDOT is whether they can, shift some of that money around in their debt authorization. It's really an accounting matter for them to just keep track of it. But absent a promise from the legislature that they'll up the number, if everyone else actually spent their amount, they'd be in trouble. So we have a week-long exercise between the MPOs and the department the first week of June. We're going to resolve hopefully all of these issues. But wanted to make you aware as we move forward, it won't be settled in this session. We'll be talking about this for the next legislative session.
And just to clarify too, we're not going to be slowing up our efforts in getting lots of projects initiated. From day one, we felt it was important to be aggressive because projects always have a fluid schedule. Some move faster than others, some get delayed. We'd rather have more projects ready to go than have the money, because I've been doing this a lot of years, and I don't think I've ever hit a situation where we haven't been able to spend the money when a project became available. So we're not going to slow that up. We're going to continue to follow that process of soliciting projects whenever.
Mark, before we go to the rail freight plan, Mr. Chairman, with your permission, we're also going to be meeting with the department. NVCOG will be meeting with the department about their capital plan draft that they had published several months ago. This will be our consultation on the capital plan. So one of the things that we're talking about is how the projects that we may run a corridor study in your town. How does that corridor study end up as an actual construction project? Right now, it's a gap. There is no process at CONDOT that logically takes it through from the beginning to the end. But we're continuing to look at state roads that are your main roads. When your main street is a state highway, how do you deal with that? We have a bunch of them. We want you to bring those to our attention, bring them directly to our attention so we can put them together in an ask that we put together to the department for the capital plan. The basics of the capital plan, we're not trying to get anything in the first few years. We support the department accelerating the out years into the near years in order to spend the money that's coming through the pipeline right now at a heavy rate. But we want to get your main streets in those out years. So as you think about those, if you have those kinds of main roads, we had a meeting in Waterbury yesterday. We were talking about Grand Street. Grand Street's a state highway. A lot of people don't realize that. And it's not on CONDOT's agenda. Yeah. Route 334 through Seymour and Ansonia, not on, it's a main road coming down into Ansonia from Route 8. It's a state highway, and it's like a local road right now. And there's
When
no
you
plan.
say not on their agenda, do you mean it simply doesn't appear on their list at all, or not on their agenda to perform some work?
I would say for most of these, we have no indication that it's either on the capital plan or in planning for a major update. That fair description?
Yeah.
Not even, let's just say mill and pave or anything like that. It's
Well,
forgetting that.
no, mill and pave, we don't count in that.
Yeah,
Mill and pave can be,
So you're talking
is
about
maintenance.
total reconstruction?
Yeah. Mill and pave is maintenance.
Are
Some of these
these-
roads need to be diverted. They need to be moved off of their current alignment. 334 in Ansonia, for those of you who don't know, it's Franklin Street. There's no parking on either side. There's barely enough room to pass two cars in two directions. There's houses all the way down both sides.
Right.
And tractor trailers use that road to get from Route 8 into the downtown of Ansonia and to the industrial district of Ansonia. So it's, the opportunity to reroute that is an important one. It's been on our long-range plan for a while, but it doesn't get to the state's agenda. So, we want to make that an issue. We want to identify these roads in your towns.
And
forward.
I just needed to understand what you were seeking from the local towns. Obviously, I have a lot of highways as well going through my town. I recognize Main Street as being important.
Right.
And what I would say is, and the concern is that a lot of these state roads, the state's going to look at it from how to move traffic. When they pass through your downtown, you want to know how that road could be enhanced to enhance your downtown experience. And so again, that's sort of what we want to see is we want to be able to make these what they call more complete streets. That there are sort of some streetscape amenities, landscaping, on-street parking is better defined. You don't have this super wide pavement structure that really doesn't allow people to cross the street safely. So those are the kinds of things that we want to sort of emphasize and have the state recognize that, no, this is, yes, it's a state road, but it's also your main street.
I know in the past when we have talked to DOT about, potential different styles of parking, their answer to us was always, well, it's our street. If you want to own it, it's like, well, no, thank you. You already own it, but so is that the type of thing you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay, well, then we should have a conversation about Main Street now.
Yep.
Improved parking would be a great enhancement there.
And again, that's what we're looking at, West Main Street corridor study we're working on in Waterbury. We found the same kind of thing, wide pavement, inconsistent number of lanes, difficulty crossing. We just want to improve that. So parking is better well-defined. We have curb extensions that, define where the intersection is and allow people to cross more safely.
Okay, thank you. Kevin, item 6B, regional freight plan.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We are kicking off a regional freight plan. We're looking to form a committee for the plan, just to solicit a future freight planning for a region. So if any of you are interested, please let me know. We can add you to our committee. Also, additionally, if you know any private industries within your municipalities that would also be interested in the regional freight plan committee, please let us know.
I have two for you. I'll see you after the meeting.
All right.
Okay. Anybody else?
I'm sure Mayor has.
Yeah, so just note for the record that I'm interested, okay?
Yeah.
Got it.
I'll talk to Kevin.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
We can also reach out to Naugatuck Valley Railroad.
Yes,
I'm sure they'll be happy to.
they would love to do some freight rail, but that's gonna probably require some track improvements.
Hey, Pete, when you get a chance, I need to talk to you off record on that subject, okay?
Yeah.
Well, I'll call you right after.
All right. Okay. Item agenda 7, environmental planning. A, Christine O'Neill, Environmental Sustainability Forum.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Very excited to share that NVCOG will be hosting quarterly environmental sustainability forums focused on educating town employees and sharing knowledge with the community. So each meeting is going to have a different theme with an environmental topic. Municipal staff and officials are encouraged to attend, but by no means required. So our first meeting is going to focus on MS4 compliance. MS4 refers to the Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System Permit. It's a notoriously complicated stormwater management effort that a lot of towns in Connecticut struggle with. We're going to have some great speakers. We have UConn Center for Land Use Education and Research, that's also known as CLEAR. The Department of Energy and Environmental Protection will be there, who actually gives the permit. And we'll also have some engineers from the city of New Haven to share the projects the city has undertaken in support of MS4. So in addition to the sort of training portion of this, we'll also open the floor to questions, comments, and discussion. So we really encourage all members, all regional stakeholders who feel like they are struggling with this or maybe want to share some wisdom about how they got it right. We'd really love to have you there. So the event will be held in person here at the COG offices on Wednesday, April 20th at 12 noon. There should be flyers somewhere on the table that you can.
They're throughout.
Okay, there we go. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. We also sent this out to town planners, public works staff, TTAC, but after this, we'll also send it out to the CEOs to make sure you all have a copy of this. We hope you'll encourage your staff to attend. Free lunch will be provided. There is a virtual attendance option if anyone's not comfortable being here in person. And my email address is on there. Please RSVP to me so we make sure we have enough lunch for you. And any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Thank you, Christine. I just want to add, none of our towns, to my knowledge yet, but private nonprofit environmental groups have started filing lawsuits in Connecticut against municipalities who are not in compliance with this permit requirement. So it's coming. And they'll probably prevail since it's federal law.
Federal law.
Yeah, MS4 is Aaron and Christine. MS4 is federal.
Right, but this is all, it's, administered by the states.
Right.
Yeah.
But
It's all about Long Island Sound.
Long Island Sound. Yeah, that is Tonic River.
Thank you, Christine.
Item agenda 7B is in boy, compost.
Aaron.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So just a quick update. Our online store is open at nvcogct.gov/composter sale. Residents can order backyard composters, rain barrels, and related accessories until May 19th. And NVCOG will be hosting events in Seymour and Bethlehem on May 21st, where residents will be able to pick up their orders. So the online store has been open for just about a month now. Sales are off to a pretty good start. We've sold over 30 composters and 20 rain barrels so far. We're going to have a booth at the Woodbury and Ansonia Earth Day events coming up to promote the sale. And we're generally going to be stepping up our outreach and advertising around Earth Day later this month on April 22nd. So just ask you all to please keep an eye out for our social media posts and press about the sale, and continue to share information about it to your residents on your websites and social media accounts.
Okay, any questions for Aaron? Thank you, Aaron. Okay, last but not least, Kittytown Dam update.
No,
So it is the beginning of April, and historically that's the beginning of the spring fish migration season. So sea run fish like shad and alewife should be starting their return to freshwater rivers and streams to spawn. Despite timelines set by DEP and U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and an order by FERC to implement short and long-term actions to restore fish passage at Kinneytown Dam, we've seen very little progress by Hydroland. And, we're really concerned that the 2022 migration season is in serious jeopardy. On March 14th, Hydroland filed a progress report with FERC, and they really just continued their finger pointing, blaming their inaction at Kinneytown on personnel changes, COVID-19, global supply chain interruptions, and insufficient funding. So Hydroland reported that they continue to make progress on repairs to the generator in Seymour, which is Unit 1. And they also reported that they were working to dewater the fish ladder to allow for an engineering assessment. And that assessment was actually supposed to have been done last fall. So at that time, Fish and Wildlife Service was unable to take measurements of the fish ladder because Hydroland could not stop the flow of water into the ladder. In their progress report, Hydroland also mentioned that they had a pending partnership with an unnamed company that it claimed would bring expertise and funding to the table to enable future progress toward compliance. So earlier this week, I visited Kinneytown, and I observed that both generating facilities are still offline. And you can see that in this video that's running on the screen right now. This is the outlet to Unit 1 in Seymour. So if the generating facility was running, there'd be water entering where that the top arrow is, but it's obviously not running. The fish ladder has been completely dewatered, presumably to conduct that engineering inspection that I mentioned earlier. So you can see that there's no water running through the ladder at all. So while that engineering assessment is really critical to coming up with a long-term solution for fish passage, without the fish ladder running, fish are obviously not going to be able to pass the dam. Can you go to the next slide, please? So last year, although the ladder was running, all of the water was, all of the river flow was flowing over the spillway, which is basically the entire length of the dam in this photo. Fish were attracted to the dam spillway instead of the ladder. Fish like to go where the flow is. So if there's more flow going over the spillway, they're going to be attracted there rather than to the bottom of the fish ladder. So that false attraction, along with mismanagement of the fish passage system, and what we're sort of assuming are potential engineering flaws in the ladder itself, the result was minimal fish passage. A few dozen fish possibly found their way somehow up that ladder and past the dam. So without the fish ladder running, we won't even see those paltry numbers this year. Real significant passage is only going to be restored by getting both generating units running to minimize the flow over the spillway, and likely with a complete overhaul of the fish passage facility as well. And that needs to be guided by the resource agencies, who are the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection and U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. So staff from those two agencies met with Hydroland officials on March 22nd to begin discussions about those continuing issues. And we understand they're going to be meeting again to discuss the details of fish passage soon. So we're going to continue working with the resource agencies. We really want to somehow salvage at least part of this season, this migration season, and work with them as well to come up with long-term solutions that are going to really provide this significant and substantial fish passage that we really need to see there. And Rick, I don't know if you have anything else to add.
When is that meeting, the next meeting scheduled?
I don't have a date. I think it was later in April is what I heard, but we don't have a date.
When you do have a date, can you let us know? I'd like to go to that meeting.
Yeah, we'll definitely.
Well, there may be some others that would like to go as well. Okay, so if you could give us just a little notice, Aaron, maybe
Sure.
we could.
Yeah, I'd like to attend also, but let me ask you something, Aaron. Are they talking about any kind of fines to Hydroland for this? I mean, I think that speaks volumes. If we start fining them, they're going to have to move quicker. This has been dragging out for years now. I've been to meetings over the last couple of years. When are we gonna start getting some rectification here?
Yeah, we did meet with FERC staff, was it last month? They explained that that is sort of the next step that they would take.
Okay, all right.
They also explained that, the fact that we went as far as we did in such a short period of time.
Yeah.
We've really gotten FERC to move pretty rapidly on enforcement on this, much more rapidly than they would normally operate. It just seems like it is taking forever though.
Yes, it does.
Aaron, I have a question. Do we have, or should we get an expert engineering opinion that proves what we already know, that ladder, even when everything is perfect, is woefully inadequate and doesn't work and never has worked, and the low number of fish that pass through it, even when it works and everything is perfect, is way below what it's supposed to be? The original design is flawed. So how do we get that issue forward?
Yeah, I think the fishery staff at Deep and the experts at U.S. Fish and Wild. So the real experts in this are at U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. We've really, through our submissions on the FERC docket, have really, documented that fact, I think, and I think they're very aware of it. We're going to continue sort of beating the drum and, make sure that the solutions that they are suggesting, that Hydroland suggests, are appropriate, and make sure that, Fish and Wildlife really holds them to a higher standard.
Yeah, but it's pretty simple. They're trying to have a solution to fix something that doesn't work, even if they fix it. I mean, it's so basic. I think they're missing the point. If Hydroland did everything they could possibly do to fix the ladder, it wouldn't work. So that it's so basic. I think people miss that point.
Yes.
Well, I think if we could get the meeting date, a little bit of notice, we could have, the stakeholders here and get at least some of our, if not the federal delegation in person on the meeting, we can get their representatives, from Blumenthal and Murphy and Hayes and Deloro's offices. I know that they've been really great so far, and I know that they're still as interested in this as we are. So I think that is our leverage, with FERC. And, I think that has been our leverage and our success thus far with FERC. So I think we got to keep the pedal to the metal here. But I think the way to do that, Aaron, is to show up on a call with FERC at your next meeting, and they'll see all the interest in it. And then we can, nudge them a little bit with the, with the appropriate people in those offices. Okay.
Yeah. So just to be clear, that meeting that is upcoming is really between the resource agencies and the dam owner. We were not invited to the first meeting. It was really just an internal discussion about.
Aaron? Yeah, this would be something I would take to the executive session if we had one. We don't need one today, but it is something I can update the interested members offline on what's going on with the meeting's schedule. And thank you.
So who's going to be at the, I'm sorry, I'm confused now. Who's going to be at the next meeting, Aaron, that I'm asking to be at?
So the meeting I mentioned earlier is a meeting between U.S. Fish and Wildlife and Deep staff and Hydroland.
So I think it would be really, as I said, I don't think that minimizes it. So if FERC's not there, it doesn't matter. I think that it's important that we get the people that I mentioned at that meeting, because you're still going to have U.S. Fish and Wildlife there and Hydroland. And I think that the representatives for Hydroland need to see us and recognize and understand that this is, they can keep kicking the can down the river, if you will. But the truth is, we're not going away. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Aaron, what is the migration window timeframe?
It runs, I believe, through like mid-June. And, really, well, there's usually a sort of like a bell curve, but this dam's a little bit different. It really depends on, when the flows are low enough that there's no spill over the spillway. And unfortunately, with neither of the generators actually operating, all of the water right now is going over that dam. So there will not be, unless they figure out a way to bypass the spillway, there's always going to be water running over that spillway when the two generators are not operating.
Right, but the spawning season is April to June.
Yeah.
That's when they're attempting to go upstream.
There's a question in the chat from
Mike Kroneski.
Mike.
Yeah, it was more statement.
Mike Kroneski from Beacon Falls asked whether letters from the towns would also be a benefit to show concern. Yes, absolutely. Any letters you wish to file, Aaron and I can give you direction to the FERC docket where you can file statements.
Yeah, I think Mayor O'Leary's suggestion is more effective.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, a letter is fine, but if they can make the time to show up in person, I think that's more statement. I totally
More
agree.
effective.
So maybe we get lucky and get this group together on a call. Let them just see who we are. We'll go around the room and introduce ourselves. When they go back and tell the powers to be at Hydroland, they're gonna say that there were X amount of municipalities.
So where's the meeting being held?
Where's the meeting being held, Aaron? I'm assuming in Zoom, because nobody meets in person anymore except for us.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I think it's virtual.
Maybe as chairman, you ought to send them a letter saying you want a personal meeting. The VCOG wants a personal meeting.
Well,
Person meeting.
We've already.
Meet at the site.
we're working on it.
Meet at the
Yeah.
site out there.
Okay. Okay. All right. Anybody else have any comments on the Kinneytown? All right, good. All right, anyone have anything under other? Zeke?
See, now we're talking about rivers. On the way up here, my constituents, McConaughey's Grove, which is approximately 25 houses across from Shelton down there.
Yep.
So this is the time of the year when the flooding starts. So McConaughey's Grove sits on Lake Housatonic, which is downstream from Lake Zor, which is downstream from Lake Willow. When the storms are coming in, they draw down both of those lakes. They do not draw down Lake Housatonic. And once those fill up, those basins fill up, they open up the gates and they flood everything out. So all 25 of those houses right now, I have videos and pictures once again, excuse me, all flooded out. All their landscaping is down, all their docks have been washed out, no warnings once again. Last year, we had a meeting, I think VCOG came down, I had all the CEOs come down there. For some reason, and I'm not a dam expert, that the Derby Shelton Dam does not talk to First Light, which is Stevenson's dam. And I think it's simple as if they lowered Housatonic, Lake Housatonic, and when the storms come in and then they start filling that basin up, you're not gonna get the heavy flow. I'm at wit's end. I mean, Mark, I don't know how bad it is on your side, but what we need to do is somehow coordinate these two dams. I don't know how to do it. I'm gonna request help from NVCOG, maybe Aaron can help us out, to really get a communication going, because they're at wit's end right now. They're ready to go to the medias and everything like that, so. Any help you can
There's actually a problem above Stevenson as well. That one of the other regions has contacted us about Lake Winona and Lake Zor. And First Light owns all of those facilities, but they don't coordinate the releases from dam to dam. And part of it is the ability to deal with some of the rain flows that we've had in recent years versus historic. But there's got to be a better way to do this. We never experienced this kind of flooding and problems before. McCallum.
That's not necessarily true. This has been an ongoing problem for the last 40 years.
We've always had some.
You know, but
We've
it's
always
only
gotten whacked.
But it's
No.
only exacerbated by the weather that we've had the last 2 years and will.
Right, well, everything is cyclical and, you know, when you get more weather events, you have more activity for sure. And I know today was bad. I'm not sure that it's a coordination effort. I can't tell you how many meetings, how many public sessions we've had with all the damn people in the room. I'm just not sure. I don't think that there's a resolution to it. The amount of water that comes down is what it is sometimes, and sometimes it's just more than can be handled.
Right. But I think if they lower Housatonic, but trying to talk to McCullough and any of these other dam companies.
Mayor, we've had that discussion. I gotta tell you.
And is it, they don't want to release all that water because they're losing water to
No,
produce
no, no, no.
electricity?
The
I don't know.
the main problem is that the Derby Dam is manual. They have to go out and they install boards that actually raise the level. So they can't go out and just remove them in advance of the storm. That's the big problem. Whereas upstream, they just open the gates.
Yeah.
And, it's not really possible for them to react that quickly to get a boat in the water and get all those boards taken off the dam to lower the level. They do it a couple of times.
So they
a
don't
year
have
on
any gates
schedule.
on the side over the shoulders?
Well, they do, but it's not, there's only so much capacity there.
Yeah.
There, I mean,
But
the gate is from me to you wide.
But when, during the springtime, they're gonna lower it so all the residents go out there.
They take the boards off.
That's different.
Right, so they can fix all their properties and their
Right,
decks and everything like that they got there. So why can't they? I mean, at least we can get the answer to the resident. Listen, they have their flood insurance and they go through this every year.
All right.
But they're at their wits' end, so if maybe McColl's can give them an answer, say, listen, this is the reason why X, Y, and Z, we can't do it.
We had suggested a coalition running from Derby north to Danbury, all the way up to, I forget the lake, Chippewa Dam.
Yeah.
Lake Winona, Lake Zor, and trying to put together a single group and get First Light at the table, because really the only ones who can truly control it, the releases are First Light. But the mayor's right. I mean,
There's quarterly meetings with that First Light house. I get notified, I'm sure you get notified. I think it just becomes a capacity issue. I mean, that's the word, the term that you use, Rick, and I think you're right.
Yeah.
You get to the point where there's just too much capacity all at once.
True. They also had a debris field out there. So, I mean, it's just, a lot of the towns that don't involve it, they had a debris field that was probably, we have pictures of that.
It was acres.
Acres and acres of trees and logs and everything that came down and just destroyed boats and docks and everything like that. I mean, there's gotta be something from Seymour all the way down. Anne Marie's on here too. She knows. It's just, we need more help. I mean, we had that initial meeting. They want to do a code red and let people know what's coming down. And the notification is only maybe an hour, so it's just.
So I spoke.
I got notified at 6 this morning from First Light.
Right, and it was already done.
Yeah, I mean, it was too late then.
Right.
It was too late then.
Was First Selectman Dragonis trying to speak?
Yes, I was. I spoke to First Light this morning. And I asked what the problem was, and they need to have all new contact information. They didn't even have our LEPC correct number, nor do they have our new chief notice. So I think it's on our end also to make sure that we give them the proper numbers to call. But like Rick said, the other dam is a manual dam. And to get someone to go out there at 1 o'clock in the morning, sometimes it's possible, sometimes it's not possible. So we just have to do a better communication with that. And see what we can do together as a team, as opposed to just throwing people and pointing fingers. We gotta let our constituents know that we're gonna work with everyone.
Thank you.
This may seem very naive, on my part, but would it just make sense to have a river run at that section?
A what?
River run?
What's that?
Why have this lower dam at all? What's the value of it?
Well, as it has been explained in the past many times.
Well, I don't know. I'm just throwing this out. I said it might be naive.
These are basins. Essentially, they're basins in between the Derby Shelton Dam and the Stevenson Dam, and I don't know, Chippewa, and a couple more. And once they fill up, water just seeks its level, and it's just.
Of course it does. Of course it does. So
I'm not sure that there is a solvable issue here, to be honest with you.
I think you're right too, and it's
the volume in a time frame.
But I think Ed's talking about removing the dams, which is.
what I'm saying.
Which
Go off
is
the board.
not,
Let it be a river run. Why are you holding water at all?
because they generate power. it's a private license.
On this particular dam.
Yeah.
In Lake Housatonic,
Yes.
Lake, which has a lot of recreational sports.
And that, the head.
Yale's on
like
there.
this.
Yeah.
So it's for recreational use for the
Headquarters
residents
like
as well as power producers.
Power generation.
Okay, okay.
There's money in that.
Would it make
There it
any
is.
sense at all?
You hit it on that.
But I
But also the
basically,
recreational use people.
Chairman, I just wanted to bring this onto record because it's
Until it's
something
like
that's
the
been festering down. Lower, everything flows down the stream and we're catching it down here.
Yeah.
So
But
You're at the tavern.
does
Unique.
first, where does First Light own those? stations
Everything
too?
from
All
Stevenson
all
up.
but the one in Shelton.
Yeah. And it just can't get coordinated, and Rick knows, I think so. But I think I took enough of your time, but I just want to thank you for allowing me to bring this up.
No, I'm just curious, because we had that issue up at our reservoir in Warren, with the manual dam, and we actually went to the federal government and got a huge grant, built a brand new dam at the mouth of the Chippewa River, which was all part of the Chippewa River lawsuit when they wanted more water flow from us. And the settlement agreed to, the federal government put aside money, and we built the electronic dam that can be controlled by your phone. And I'm just wondering, would it be worthwhile for you to try to pursue something like that and get rid of that dam that has boards that have to be removed at 1 a.m? I mean, I know it sounds kind of far-fetched, but it might work.
You're not going on that river at 1 o'clock in the morning to take the boards off.
That's what I'm saying.
So you need, nobody's doing that.
That's why you need
So why
to
didn't
shut
they, why
down.
wouldn't they do it during the day? They know you're getting 4 inches of rain. We go over, we
But
shut
even
our
still-
dam, we open up our dam the day before, we let it come down.
That's what we do at our.
And then we go and
We
close it.
open up the gates, we lower.
I don't think it's that simple. But I do think that it would be good to have a meeting and do it through the emergency management directors to call the meeting with First Light, because there's a lot of new people in the position of CEO now that weren't there 10 years ago that, because we've had these meetings, we've had these discussions. It's,
Isn't Lenny Green still
Yeah, no, we've been talking.
I don't know.
Yeah, Lenny.
And,
I'm just saying, I thought it was
he's
like
with First Light, isn't he?
impossible project, Zeke, when we built that dam, and it wasn't. Seriously, it was, don't get me wrong, it wasn't simple, but it got done. The federal government paid for all of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a privately owned, federally licensed dam, that's old.
McCallum.
Yeah, McCallum, the one that spans Derby Shop. There is money in the current, DOE bill that they would be eligible for. Aaron can correct me if I misstate this, but they would be eligible for upgrading their dam under one of the programs. I think it's the DOE. Aaron?
Under the BRIC program, maybe?
Hey, talking of fish ladders, that dam is required under their permit to have a fish ladder.
Never has.
20 years ago, and there's no fish ladder.
Well, it keeps it striper for everyone we want.
And then the fishermen know it too.
Well, all I know is for 50 years, the Chippewa River people, it sounds similar story. They were always complaining about the city of Waterbury not releasing enough water into the mouth of the dam, which is way up in Warren, Connecticut, which is the most beautiful place I've ever seen. Having said that, they finally got together and filed a couple of lawsuits, and the lawsuits brought it to where I just mentioned that they did file a federal lawsuit, which is where the federal settlement came in. And the settlement included the funding for the modernization of the dam. So we can adjust it daily depending on the water flow, the rain, the drought. It's August. Obviously, we try to, but we're mandated actually to release X amount of gallons in the Chippewa every day in certain months and certain times of the year. Unless, of course, there's a bona fide drought, which has only happened twice in the last, I don't know how many years, but like 4 years ago it happened and we had to reduce it a little bit, but not enough to really have a bad impact on the river.
See, like that would be something to push for, what Mayor O'Leary just said, and I didn't think of it, but the dam, as Rick mentioned, is very old. and it's antiquated, and it had some upgrades that had gates that could release it automatically, then there was no question it could help.
Right.
But once it becomes a capacity issue, you're not stopping it.
Right.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
And I mean, they can solve some of the stuff through coordination, no question about it.
Mhm.
But
I
I think
assume
the
that-
mayor Louis has another good point
Yeah,
here.
I assumed that they had automatic gates coming in, but I didn't realize it was in, okay, thank you. I appreciate the
All right.
dialogue.
Anything else under other? Sun is out. Friday. I just want to take just one moment and thank Rick and Mark Nielsen and the COG for working so closely with the city and Waterbury Development Corporation and putting together this RAISE grant, which is otherwise known as the Tiger Grant Phase 2 for the Waterbury Greenway project. But, we had a really short timeline, and I'm just really proud of the fact that the way the COG and the city worked together to get this done and get it in. We had a really productive meeting in the Commissioner POT's office earlier in the week that went really well. So I just want to thank everybody involved, especially Mark, staff, Rick.
No, I take no credit for this.
And
These guys did the work.
Danielle at WDC got high
Should
marks
stop it.
from the Commissioner's office. So we do good things. If you just want to take the time and try to figure out how to get it done. There's a lot of resources in this COG that I don't know that all the cities and towns recognize, but they can be very helpful. And our reputation up at the Connecticut DOT is higher than anyone else, any other COG. I'll tell you right now. As a matter of fact, I'm not knocking any other COG, but the commissioner and his staff said that they hadn't seen a more thorough and complete grant come through their office since he's been the commissioner, which has been over 3 years. So, I mean, we have the ability to get this stuff done and the resources, and that's what COG's here for. So I think, maybe especially our new town leaders, sometimes we get so busy with all the crap going on every day. We don't realize that we have some of these resources right at our fingertips here. So anyways, I thought it was a great job. I'm really proud of everyone involved. All right. Anybody else before we all go on this beautiful Friday?
I would just note briefly, at a CCM legislative LegCon meeting the other day, were you part of that?
I was.
Okay, so you understand that OPM doesn't quite like the way former Mayor Mark Boughton would like to work the funding with us coming together collaboratively through the COGs to put in grants that they would rather provide the oversight themselves. That kind of thing is something that really contrary to working with us at the local level, where we know what is best for us and where we can organize and get the grants moving forward through a streamlined process. And it's just, I think, something that we as local leaders should make our legislative body know that we stand opposed to that. And we prefer to go with the originally proposed plan that was the governor's plan, incidentally, to cycle it all through DRS and Mayor Mark Boughton, and the process is a preferred process by us.
And we opposed it, representing all the towns and cities.
We did, but it never
Strongly,
hurts for us to
strongly
tell
opposed.
our legislative leaders.
Yeah, and we will be sending off a letter with everybody on that.
Who's opposing this? OPM.
Oh, because
They want the power to distribute and discern what is the appropriate.
The further we stay away from them, the better off.
Agreed.
They don't have any school grants.
Agreed.
You're not kidding.
I'll give you, lastly, since that you made me think of something I should have brought up, and I thank you for talking about OPM, because we have been battling with the legislature over the opioid allocation settlements. Tony Harp, Kathy Austin, they want complete control over the opioid money. As a matter of fact, at an approach meeting this week, one of them said that they wanted to mirror the tobacco settlement. If that mirrors, if we were to go down that road, which would be really against the wishes of the federal court, we would see zero. They would just do what they did with the tobacco money and, yeah, so we have a meeting at 2:00 Wednesday with the Speaker of the House. We're trying to get to him and the governor. The governor now, as you've heard, has got this COVID, but I'm hearing that he's not sick. So anyways, we can hopefully try to get them steered in the right direction. It's astounding to me, but there's not, listen, there's a lot of infighting up there. This proposal that the appropriations came out with on the reduction of the car tax mills is a direct shot across the barrel at the bow at Lamont. Other things, they're fighting up there, and it's having an impact on all of us. And it's the usual bullshit in the election year bullshit. They're all trying
What
to,
it is.
There's
3 different proposals on the car tax now. and there's multiple proposals on how to value.
It's as bad as it's ever been. So anyways, I'm sure it'll all work out, but stay tuned. There's a lot of crap going on.
Just on a very positive note, want to thank you and Chief Spagnola, because it looks like you're making some inroads on this crime issue that we're dealing with, which is totally out of control.
Well,
I
that's
mean, look at
another battle.
look at the incident that just went on over the weekend.
Hummer. You gotta take those Hummers off.
Yeah, well, they converted our phone. I don't know how, I think they went through it, but.
We were driving around with that.
Forget that.
I didn't know what they were doing.
Chief Stevens did his job. I wouldn't allow 5 cruisers.
That officer did a good
Tell
job.
him I said that.
I
I'll drive him nuts.
I told him I gotta give you some cruisers.
Neil, that officer did a good job. He had his gun out, but he didn't shoot.
Yeah,
Thank God.
he did a really great job.
Great
Well,
research.
that's the nice thing about the body cams.
Yeah.
Let
Right.
people see what these cops deal with every day.
Yeah.
We're actually, we have one person assigned to we have more than one person assigned to the body cam footage and documenting it from, appropriately for evidentiary reasons, which is an enormous expense to us. But we're also creating a file that will be really interesting to show the public police interaction between things like that. And it's astounding, and it's almost daily.
Yeah.
And I think it's great because the people who are not sure about how they feel about the police, I think when they are educated through these videos as to what the police deal with every day, I think they might have a different opinion, because it's mind-boggling. It's like the school resource officers in schools. We have cameras now in almost all of our schools, and we are criticized repeatedly for too many school-based arrests. Well, this year has been our worst year, although the school-based arrest count is, we only arrest somebody if they hurt someone. Well, if you watch these videos of how they just jump on one person and just kick and beat them, there's no doubt in your mind that these folks need to be arrested. I mean, you can't put your hands on somebody and harm them maliciously and then just go to class. It just can't happen. It shouldn't happen. So I think, the pendulum will come back a little bit, and, and it's ironically, it's all, we have a school district that's 80% minority. So, it's really, and the people that are screaming about the school resource officers, they want them out of the schools, are folks who represent the minority communities. I don't think they have a clue as to what's going on in those schools, especially.
And we got to show them videos there.
That's what we're doing.
That's what it need be, because they
That'll take
prohibit us
care
from
of
being
it.
targeted.
Yeah. But, and one of the, the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, Senator Winfield, you see what happened at his house over the
I wonder if
weekend.
he's thinking differently now, huh?
I don't know, but I mean, he had a very emotional interview with Channel 8 News last night, bullets come flying through your house, you have maybe a different look, and that's what happened in his house in the way.
People don't realize how important that safety community is to living in a community. That's all I hear about is what are we doing with the cars, who's doing the things, and what's going on here. And we've been just lucky we haven't anything
major at this point.
If the juvenile justice bill comes out the way it should, it'll address a lot of the concerns with the repeat offenders, which is really the only thing we're worried about. Everyone that's riding around in cars in Waterbury and outside of Waterbury that are stealing cars are repeat multiple offenders. There's just no ifs, ands, and buts. That's what's going on. If we can get this legislation passed, which it seems like it's a bipartisan thing and it has support, I think it'll be good. If it doesn't go through, the backlash from the voters in November should be loud and clear.
You're gonna get it anyway.
Let me, and by the way,
Too bad.
as a Democrat, a moderate Democrat, wouldn't bother me.
Maybe even conservative.
That's right. They're just, listen, it's just a different thing going on. It's weird. I know, but I will say that some of them have come around in a significant way.
Thanks to you and those videos and all the PR work you've done.
I mean, we've got some really bad videos, but they're really good. You don't want to sleep tonight.
Takes you where you need to go,
You
Mayor.
want to see a 16-year-old blow the head off of another kid. We got them.
Sometimes that's the kind of thing that needs to be seen.
Mhm.
Not by the general
Well, I
public,
mean,
that would be
no,
considered
but
crass,
don't-
but certainly by some of the
Don't close
legislators.
the connection. Okay.
All right, anyways, I'm done on my tangent.
Yeah.
All right, you guys, motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Great weekend, everybody.
You so.
The agenda, the recording.